By definition, our deer are called European fallow deer, but it appears that a couple of our does might be more French than European. If you pay close attention right here, you can see two separate trails, and that is because the original trail and the switchback were too low on the mountain, which makes the second part of the trail much steeper, so I had to make a change. I'm still working on the old switchback at this point here, but I quickly realized that I had to make some decisions on whether or not I could make the switchback and the location of the lower trail work, or if I needed to back up about 250 yards and cut in a higher trail on the mountain. Obviously, I chose to back up about 250 yards to this exact point here and put a fork in the road and start the process of cutting in a new trail that will stay much higher on the side of the mountain and ultimately give me a better point for a switchback, which again means the new trail won't have to be as steep. This is the new mint chocolate, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you to Drink Element for sponsoring today's video.
Did you know that proper hydration leads to better sleep? It leads to better focus, better recovery. Element helps anyone stay hydrated without the sugar and the unreliable ingredients that are found in most electrolyte and sports drinks. As much as summer hydration matters, winter hydration might matter even more because of the elevation that we live at, and especially during the cold winter months. This is something I have to watch really close.
In the summer, you can drink your electrolytes cold, but in the winter, you want your electrolytes warm. They just came out with a new chocolate medley. They have chocolate chai, chocolate raspberry, and chocolate mint.
Chocolate mint's my favorite so far, but I haven't tried the other two, so I'm sure I'm going to love them all. So you can get a free sample pack with any Element order if you use our link. The sample pack includes 1 packet of all 8 flavors.
You can try Element risk-free with no questions asked, money-back guarantee. Click the link in our description or go to Drink Element. It's drinklmnt.com/Red Poppy Ranch.
Thanks again, Element. Good stuff.
More fluff without the stuff.
Did you just make that up? That was rad. All right, we're using it. Me and old Skipper here are becoming pretty good friends as long as I've got a scoop of grain in my hands when I come inside the pen. But if I bring anybody else with me inside the pen, including my wife, the deer still get a little bit nervous, so I'm going to have to work on this. But as far as me and the fallow deer are doing, we're getting along better every day. So rather than completely abandoning the old portion of the trail and all the trees that I removed along the way, I'm going to use that part of the trail now to get access to the water tank shed. And I actually think I'm going to put a campground in, because where that trail goes happens to be a perfect spot for a little campground. So in spite of the fact that I had to remove a bunch of trees to get that lower trail to work, it's ultimately necessary and still going to be used. And I've been looking for the right place to put in this first campground, and I believe I found the perfect location. My old Bobcat 435 excavator isn't the fastest machine on the planet, but it's actually perfect for this kind of work. The Bobcat 435 excavator can pull just about any tree out of the ground that it needs to, but anything less than about 7 or 8 inches, the excavator can handle without too much effort. But if it gets much bigger than that, I try to avoid the trees at all cost. As I'm cutting in the trail up the side of the mountain, the excavator is a good indicator of whether or not I'm too steep, just simply by sitting in it and paying attention to my equilibrium. I can feel it if I've got the excavator pointed a little bit too steep up the trail, as opposed to a nice gradual increase in elevation as we go up the trail. It's hard to see from this angle, but this is the moment where I'm slowly starting to curve around that bald knob that I've been talking about on the last couple of videos. And now with the elevation of the new trail, I can see that the new switchback and the location for the second part of this trail is going to be much safer than what the original trail and switchback would have given. If I'd continued to use the original part of the trail and that original switchback, it would have made the second part of this trail about twice as steep as it needed to be to get up behind the back of that bald knob. So backtracking 250 yards and cutting in this whole new section of trail cost me close to a day's worth of work, but now I can see it was completely worth the effort. The original plan was to not have the tankless water heater in the bathroom, simply because they can be a little bit annoying if you don't have enough room for them in the bathroom. Getting the vents for the tankless water heater out would have been much easier right here, but I can still do it in that bathroom. It's just going to take more work. But the bottom line is, when it comes to keeping pipes from freezing, it would have been much better to keep everything in the bathroom. So basically all that I'm going to do is move those pipes from that corner on this wall to basically right here on the other side of the wall, and then everything's contained in the bathroom, and then I'll just have to run those 2-inch vents out the back of the shop when I get to that point. So today my goal is to try and get everything plumbing related done, gas line moved, get the insulation in here, and get the green board hung. I need to get at least a couple of coats on the bedrooms and the bathroom, but it's been so cold the last couple of days. I went and worked on the trail up on the side of the mountain instead, but now I need to get back to this and see if we can't get it done. So. As you know, I'm not afraid of making changes. As long as I can see that the changes would be worthwhile and a benefit to me and mine, I have no problem doing them. But that being said, I really don't know why I considered putting that tankless water heater out there in the shop, because it would have most definitely led to problems. It would have looked better. That's the only thing that I've come up with. It would have looked better just to keep it out there and hide it behind a cabinet or something like that out there in the shop. My goal is to make that bathroom look like the inside of a barn, and maybe having a water heater hanging off the wall in the bathroom might have looked out of place, but it's what I should have done originally. Thankfully, it really didn't take that much to relocate that water heater and run those pipes down the wall. Now remember, the back of this concrete wall is underground and the temperatures are a little bit more stable because of this, but still, these pipes are vulnerable to freeze. So using 4-inch batt fiberglass insulation like a sandwich, I'm going to put that fiberglass between the pipes and the concrete wall, as well as between the pipes and the green board. And this should be enough to keep the pipes from freezing on those cold, cold days when it gets way down below zero. So that's where the old switchback was going to be, and right here where the new trail is going to come through is going to be even higher than the original switchback. So this is doing what I needed it to do, but now I'm coming across the front of this little ridge right here, and I can see that I can still gain more elevation without having the trail too steep if I stick along the edge right here. The objective is to have a trail that goes from about 5,700 feet to over 6,700 feet progressively enough that it's safe. So that's the objective. And I can see that it coming along the front of this edge rather than dipping down like I did on the old trail. I had some serious reservations last week when I was starting to see that I had given up so much elevation with the old trail, but I can use that old trail to go down to the water tanks because there's always going to be a reason to get to those water tanks. It's bone chilling cold this morning. Last night a little storm came in and dusted the place with some snow, but it was probably 15 degrees when I walked outside this morning. And I'm up on the side of the mountain and it's windy. So I'm going to get in the excavator and I'm going to stay in that excavator all day long and hopefully make some serious progress with this trail. Have I told you how important projects like this are for me and my brain? The fact that doing something like this, cutting in a trail across the side of a mountain, trying to gain about 1,200 feet in elevation in less than a mile, the fact that I really don't have a reference point causes me to potentially make mistakes, but it causes me to think in a way that is very good for my brain. Every so often I get out and I walk around and I try to identify what trees I don't want to mess with as opposed to maybe some trees that are unhealthy. And by changing the direction of that trail back there like I did, it got steep for a little section, but then it flattened out and it got around the back of this this little bald knob that I'm now calling it, I guess. So now I'm way higher than the other switchback. And I need to pick a spot right here to do the same thing. And then I want to have a trail that goes up to that point. And then I got to pick the next spot. But this is turning out way better than I anticipated. I think I've come to grips with the idea that I'm just going to have these little trails all over the place, and that's okay because of the shape of our property. That's just how it's going to have to be. The thing that's most important is that the trails are as safe as they can be under the circumstances. So one of the things that Cedar and I have been talking about is the possibility of putting in some campgrounds along the edges of these trails. There's a whole bunch of little spots that'd be really easy to put in a little cabin or something like that, little small cabin. But I think I got my next little section picked out here. So here's the bottom line. I've briefly talked about this in past videos, and I don't know that I'm necessarily going to talk about it a whole lot in the future, and I'm not trying to use this as a crutch, but I have had somewhere between probably 18 and 24 serious concussions. What that has done to my brain, I have no idea. I tell my wife on a regular basis, one of these days I'm going to start drooling, and she'll just have to remind me to wipe my chin. But I don't know if I look at things the same way that you do. I simply look at them with the perspective that my brain offers. And maybe that lends to a mistake here and there, I'm not quite sure. But I do know it's healthy for me to exercise my brain. If you took a hard look at how I run my projects around the ranch, I've always got 7 things going on. So if I lose interest in whatever I happen to be doing at the moment, I can go do something that I want to do. One might examine my behaviors and say these correlate perfectly with somebody that's had a traumatic brain injury. But the bottom line is I don't know if I know any different, because the first traumatic brain injury I had, I was 2 weeks old. By the time I turned 14 years of age, I had probably had close to 8 major concussions at that point in time. So if I was looking for an excuse for anything, frankly, in my life, I've got a pretty good one. It has been my experience that excuses are often like armpits. Everybody's usually got a couple. They always stink. And everybody's afraid to tell you that they stink. But the truth is, excuses stink. Always. So I'm not trying to make excuses. But I also think it's important to be aware of what we're working with. And I'm aware. I do everything I possibly can to not think about myself and find excuses. This is part of the reason why I've always got 7 projects going on. If I sit idle and do nothing, my brain takes over and it's never good. So I listen to books and podcasts that are uplifting and that are helpful, and I do everything in my power to stay as busy as I possibly can. But it is also my opinion that it's incredibly healthy to have projects as a man. Even as a young boy, I can remember looking forward to doing things where I was working with my hands and learning. My best buddy, Blake, growing up, his dad was an engineer for General Motors, and although he was a quiet man, whenever I was around him, I quickly figured out that he spoke my language. Now, you parents out there that still have younger kids around, I'm going to tell you what I wish somebody had told my parents, and that is, give your kids things to do, but especially your boys. Give your boys projects working with their hands outside so they can figure out what their purpose is in life just that much sooner. If you want to create confident children and ultimately confident people, get outside, give your kids tools, and build something beneficial for everybody. I believe that the responsibilities that come with being a husband and a father require me to have the ability to fix certain scenarios. For instance, if mom gets a flat tire on the side of the road, AAA isn't going to save the day. Dad is. To me, we have to get out of our comfort zone if we're ever going to develop confidence, and this goes for kids as well. It feels like we live in a world that's now nerfed and protected from all the hard corners, and kids don't get the chance to figure out what they're capable of and just how far they can go without their mom and dad's protection from some of the hard things that inevitably life is going to throw at them down the road. For me, it comes down to doing hard, challenging things, and for me, if I don't do hard things, life has a tendency to do hard things to me. Well, as I'm looking out the window watching the snow blow by, wondering when I'm going to be able to plant the garden and watch it grow, we just wanted to say thank you. It means a lot that you'd spend your time watching our content. We will see you guys real soon. All right, all of the drywall is hung. I still hate drywall, in case you were wondering, but I've at least got it hung now. I've got to start the process of making sure everything's ready to tape and then texture, and then we can start making some decisions on paint and all that fun stuff. So anyway, thank you guys for stopping by, and we hope you're all doing well. We will see you in a week. By the way, as you guys get to know the deer a little bit better, it would be beneficial if you could help us pick out some names for the does.